One of the most beautiful train stations in the world is in Detroit, Michigan. For years it sat abandoned, vandalized, and decaying. And it was even supposed to be torn down. Instead, it has been completely renovated, and for $1 billion, it's been restored to its former glory. In the future, it may even become a train station again. Let's go explore Michigan Central Station. I don't know about you, but it's always interesting to me how people talk about Detroit. It's almost never positive. At school, I was shown so many pictures of the city in Decay. Perhaps my teachers were from Ohio, but they convinced me and my classmates that this was a failed city not worth ever going to. With Detroit's role as the birthplace of the automobile and the city's decades as the world leader in car manufacturing, it's no surprise that Detroit's transportation policy heavily favors cars. There are wide highways, excessive parking, and a stunning lack of rail transportation options for a city of its size. So it's no surprise then that the people in this urbanism space online often write off the city as well. Well, I'm glad that I had a healthy dose of skepticism even in the 3rd grade. I now have family in Detroit, and every time I visit, I really enjoy my time there. The Belle Isle Aquarium and the Eastern Market are 2 of my favorite spots, and I always leave the city having eaten way too much good food. And yes, Detroit absolutely deserves its reputation as a car city. But trains play a bigger role in the Motor City's history than you might think. Detroit once had the largest municipally run streetcar network in the US. The People Mover, small and silly as it may be, was the first transit system to incorporate public art into its stations, something that's now common across the country. And Detroit is home to one of the most beautiful stations ever built, designed by the same architects who built New York's Grand Central Terminal, and that's what we're visiting today. And let it be said, we're lucky to do so. This is the Michigan Central Station, which opened in December 1913. The station's towering height immediately captures your attention. In total, the tower is 18 floors tall. It's 230 feet or 70 meters. When it opened, that made it the world's tallest train station. Most of the tower part of the building was used for office space. It was built and owned by the Michigan Central Railroad, part of the New York Central. Besides the company's own trains, the station was also used by trains of the Canadian Pacific and the Baltimore and Ohio. You could hop on a train across Michigan and to destinations like Chicago, Toronto, and New York. Right next to the station are a set of tracks. Today they are only freight tracks, but they lead to a tunnel underneath the Detroit River. This is an important international rail connection, used by quite a few freight trains every day traveling between the US and Canada. In the past, it was used by passenger trains too, especially trains connecting New York with Detroit and Chicago, using the direct route across southern Ontario. However, in the second half of the 20th century, the number of trains here declined significantly. Amtrak used the facility from 1971 until 1988, and at that point, the decay of the building had already begun, but that is really when it hit full swing. The basement flooded, objects were looted, and for a long time, Michigan Central was the symbol of the challenges Detroit faced, with pictures of graffiti and broken windows becoming symbols of the reputation that Detroit had at the beginning of this century. If you remember that Michigan Central Station, you'll be floored when you step inside Michigan Central today. This is supposed to be one of the most beautiful train station restoration projects in the world. I'm so excited to take a look inside. It has been fully restored to its original beauty and repurposed to be a multifunctional space. Near the lobby, there are some shops and a place to get coffee. It looked nice, but it was nothing compared to the main hall. I literally gasped when I stepped inside. The way the sunlight shone through the windows and the warm glow of the chandeliers reflecting on the marble harkened back to the station's glory days. Wandering through this impressive space, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude, because not too long ago, we could have lost this place entirely. The building's decay began even when it was still being served by trains, mostly because the railroads required less and less space, and so more of the building became vacant. As less people used the building and more rooms closed, the opportunities for vandalism increased. Over the years, many different ideas for its use were floated, from police headquarters to a casino. For a while, there was a freight yard next to it, although that was dismantled. And eventually, in 1996, the family who owns the nearby Ambassador Bridge bought the building. However, the Detroit City Council voted to tear it down in 2009, and it seemed as though the building would be lost. But a local hero, a man named Stanley Christmas, sued to preserve the structure. Thankfully, he won. But the damage to the terminal had become so severe that if it wasn't restored soon, there would be no other option than demolition. So the company who owned it did do a little bit of renovations. They removed asbestos, they replaced some of the windows, and began to pump water out of the basements. But the real restoration work began when the Ford Motor Company bought Michigan Central Station in 2018. They have spent close to $1 billion to completely renovate everything. Much of the tower will contain offices for Ford and related companies. Some of the floors will become a hotel. Man, what a place to stay. Of course, the main hall is now free and open for the public to admire. The old ticket office has become the gift shop, and there's never been a train station gift shop that I've been able to leave empty-handed. Not the whole building is done yet, they are still working on different parts of it, but what we are seeing now opened in June 2024. I really don't think that it's cliche to say that the lengths Ford went to complete this project are breathtaking. They spent close to $1 billion on this restoration. Back in 1913, the building cost $15 million to build. In today's dollars, that's $500 million. So spending double on the restoration as at the original construction cost, Ford hired more than 3,000 workers who spent years replacing windows, hauling debris, and moving 3.5 million gallons of water from the basement. During that process, they discovered a secret basement not listed on any blueprints. They had to fill that one with concrete. One story I think is just exceptionally cool. Much of the limestone in the building was irreparably damaged, and so Ford decided to get new limestone from the same quarry as the original, located in Indiana. Two problems. One, the quarry wasn't open anymore. And two, even the road to get to the quarry had been removed. So what did Ford do? They reopened the quarry and built a new road to serve it, just so they could get the original limestone back on their newly renovated building. Another cool story has to do with the clock. It was one of the items that was looted from the original station, but when the anonymous owner found out that they were renovating the station, he donated it to Ford so it could be restored to its original place. And then over in this corridor, they've preserved some of the graffiti, so you kind of get a sense of what the station looked like in its more decrepit state, although thankfully the windows aren't broken. Too many station buildings have been lost to history's greatest villain, indifference. Here in Detroit, they've built something beautiful that truly honors the past. Makes you almost forget about the bad parts of Ford. Nah. So you may be thinking, man, if only it was still a train station. Well, in the future, it might be. In October of 2025, the state of Michigan announced that they were spending $40 million to study the creation of a new intermodal transit center right next to Michigan Central Station. See, Detroit's Greyhound Station and Amtrak Station are both at the end of their useful lifespan, so why not create a brand new facility where everything can be together? In fact, the city of Detroit is even considering extending the People Mover to the new station using a branch line, which would just be incredible. I'm here for it. Now, the train station would serve the Amtrak Wolverine service that Amtrak is hoping to extend to Windsor, Ontario, where passengers can transfer to the train to Toronto. In my opinion, Michigan Central should be the Detroit station for all Amtrak service, and all Wolverine trains from Chicago should terminate here. Then there should be a separate commuter train or a regional train from Michigan Central Station to Pontiac, thereby splitting the Wolverine service in half, but creating much more reliable service and a more pleasant downtown station location. It's just so beautiful. I'm so glad they were able to save it in time. I'm glad that there were people who were willing to invest time and money and effort into bringing it back to its former glory. If you're in Detroit, highly, highly recommend visiting Michigan Central. Really, you have to add it to any Detroit itinerary. And if you're visiting Detroit anyway, one more thing you gotta do is stop by John K. King Books. It's Michigan's largest used bookstore because you can buy some actual old Michigan Central stocks for $15. Thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming along and learning about this extraordinary building with me. It was built by a giant corporation, restored by a giant corporation, but saved by the brave acts of one individual who appreciated the history of his city. For more content like this, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. We'll see you next time.